Hello, everyone. Welcome on into our South Carolina live primary coverage. My name is Spencer Walsh. We appreciate you joining us, and let's waste no time with it. The winner tonight is Joe Biden. To really no one's surprise, he secures the South Carolina primary tonight. We will be breaking down his win, how it came about, everything to do with it. And yeah, we'll also talk about some other primary news. We'll have some guests hopefully coming on the show as soon as we can, and it should be a pretty fun night. So please, let's be honest, Bernie fans out here, we're chilling. We're quite all right with this. It's not a big deal. Bernie looks like he's going to come second, but we will be dialing into the full results for you. Keep you abreast of everything that is happening here, because it's very, very important to stay in tune with what could be happening. This is not a state really that should be dismissed. It's a big portion of the black vote right now. Joe Biden with 53.9% of the vote. This is the primary, so there's none of that funny state delegate or county delegate equivalent business. And we are following it all. And watching it at this time. So Joe Biden, you really just scored a decisive victory. Pretty much, it's no bones, ifs, ands, or buts about it. In South Carolina, pretty much reflecting to what the polls say. They kind of did close out in a little bit in South Carolina, but really jumped out to a big proportion. Is the race later, as the race got down to the final lines of it. Senator Bernie Sanders, really, he's what he's trying to do here with this win is establish himself as the one candidate to connect with the black voters, other than Bernie Sanders, because in some polls nationally, Bernie Sanders is leading with black voters now, so that's going to be very, very huge to see if he can keep that lead, especially after Joe Biden gets this win. Propelled by an outpouring of support from South Carolina's African-American voters, Biden easily overcame a late effort by Sanders to upset the former vice president in a state that has long been seen as his firewall. The victory will vault Biden into Super Tuesday, where polls open in over 48 hours, just over 48 hours, as a clear alternative to Sanders for the establishment-aligned Democrats. And honestly, I think it's not really something that should be feared tremendously for the entire Bernie Sanders movement. Like, oh, we're getting a one moderate challenger the people can coalesce around. Like, if that is Joe Biden, I think it's probably better than it is Mike. Maybe not as good as Mike Bloomberg, but Joe Biden, I think, is definitely someone that Bernie Sanders could beat one-on-one and really establish the contradictions. It's something that Bernie Sanders is much more used to. And I think a lot of people in the establishment completely underestimate Bernie's performance in a one-on-one matchup. So if it does happen, if Biden does get this nod from the establishment as the person who can be the one-on-one guy, I definitely don't think it's the end of the world by any stretch of the imagination. So, yeah, that is the latest on this stuff. And on a day where literally CNN is running stories with the chyrons, can either coronavirus or Bernie Sanders be stopped? Like, that was a funny one I saw out there today. So, yeah, we're going to keep you the latest on the results. It looks like the exit poll, they were calling it as soon as the exit polls right away for Joe Biden. Really get that win out there. Bernie Sanders was 16.3%. Looks like he's going to be viable to receive delegates, so that's encouraging. That is definitely encouraging. Joe Biden has received the most votes in 32 of South Carolina's 46 counties. And now 33 out of South Carolina's 46 counties, so they're all coming in. Charleston, Sumter, Greenville, Georgetown, whatever the case may be. Yeah, so Joe Biden has sealed the deal on this. Yeah, let's take a look at where some of the updates from the campaign trail about where things are going. Amy Klobuchar does not even have a campaign rally tonight. After her afternoon event in Portland, she's speaking at Democratic Party dinner in North Carolina tonight. She's already trying to move on to Super Tuesday states, which will be going on in North Carolina. In the South Carolina results that are in so far, Biden looks to be sweeping across the upstate, which is supposed to be Sanders' strongest region. Biden could raise more money than normal on a winning night. The early call gave his donors more hours to give. It's also an end-of-month filing deadline tonight. Very, very big. And it's going to be interesting to see how Bernie Sanders can do. I think he's going to do well, especially with a bunch of negative attacks, which is going to really only drive his supporters more towards giving to him. It may not be, maybe he's not getting support from new donors, but a lot of the more hardcore Sanders supporters probably gave multiple times at least throughout this month. Because I know I did, seeing Bernie Sanders get hit in the debate. DNC Chair Tom Perez just defended the raucous debates that something hurt Democrats. He says, look at the 2008 South Carolina debate with Obama, Clinton, and Edwards. And I think this is actually the one case where Tom Perez may be right about for once. Because I do tend to think that these primaries, they end up helping the candidate because it builds the character and it really makes the best candidate win. And really, this is a much needed win. And this is the third time again Joe Biden has run for president, but South Carolina is projected to give Biden something new, an outright victory. He ran first in the 1988 cycle, but didn't even make it to the primary voting period. His campaign was derailed in September 1987 after a plagiarism scandal in his stump speech. So yeah, Biden made it to Iowa in his 2008 bid, but dropped out after a poor showing in the caucuses. Barack Obama tapped him to be his running mate in August of 2008. So now Biden has so far notched underwhelming finishes in Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, and has already gone further than in his previous presidential bid. So what will he do from here? It's hard to see. Nothing really seems to make sense for him as the way this is currently stated. It doesn't really seem likely that he will win anything on Super Tuesday. And I mean, even we have now Sanders pushing up in like Elizabeth Warren state of Massachusetts, even a little bit of Amy Klobuchar state in Minnesota that she's supposedly has such a big lock on. So yeah, it's very, very interesting to see how this is going to play out. Biden, he surged a projected victory in South Carolina's Democratic presidential primary with a base rooted in black voters, those over the age of 65 and moderates. So yeah. Biden got around 3 in 5 black voters. Sanders got around 1 in 5. Only businessman Tom Steyer came close to Sanders with around 1 in 7 black voters. And again, this is the thing. Someone in the top 2, Bernie Sanders again finishing in the top 2. And we see also time and time again that whoever finishes around him has no plan set up to do well in a majority of the states like Bernie Sanders has. Like, that's just not there for any other candidate. Like, where is Joe Biden? Like, what's next? What's the next big state for Joe Biden? This is his firewall. Will it turn around momentum from him in some places? It's certainly possible. But as it seems right now, with Super Tuesday just days away, Bernie Sanders has the only type of organization out there to really get it done. The only thing that happened is, will Joe Biden be more of a factor? And I don't really think it's going to be a big deal for too many people because of the way they are structured ideologically. Like, I don't think Bernie Sanders finishing this way is going to lose any of his support. And it seems really only likely that if a good showing in South Carolina could help the electability argument and suck support away from Bloomberg, for example, in places in Super Tuesday where he is projected to do pretty well. So, and that's, I think, probably only a good outcome because I think Bloomberg is by far the biggest threat in this race. So, it looks like they just gave Sanders a little bit more and Biden around the same, around 70% in. And he is the only viable candidate other than Biden in this race, Bernie Sanders is. So, yeah, that's definitely a big win for Biden. It keeps his campaign around, and now he's the former vice president. His first place projected win in South Carolina brings him second place in the national delegate estimate. Still early in the night, but CNN currently estimates Biden will earn at least 14 of the state's 54 pledged delegates at stake. The current delegate estimate is Sanders 45, Biden 29. Wow. Buttigieg 26, Warren 8, and Klobuchar 7. So candidates who earn 15% of the vote statewide or in a congressional district in the Palmetto State will be eligible for delegates tonight. So this is pretty much how it plays out, as explained by CNN's David Chalian. Though we may have to go through an ad first here. So bear with me on that as it... here's an ad. So, that is refusing to mute, even though I've already pressed the mute button. But anyway, we're going to deal with that in just a second and get that video for you. But David Chalian just kind of explaining how this works, and also hopefully get some guests around the horn here. That would be a lot of fun. That is for sure. So yeah, this is a clip from CNN.
All right, Dana, David Chalian's here. David, 54 delegates are at stake in South Carolina right now. We've projected that Joe Biden will win. Presumably, he'll get a big chunk of those delegates.
Yeah, and of the 4 early states, South Carolina is the biggest delegate prize. Not as big as what we'll see on Super Tuesday, but 54 delegates at stake. You know, we are already able to allocate, in our delegate estimate, 14 delegates tonight at least. Joe Biden will win. That leaves 40 that we haven't allocated yet. We're going to wait to see how the vote comes in. As you know, Wolf, delegates are allocated both based on the statewide vote total and percentages, as well as how the candidates do in each congressional district. They have to hit 15% threshold in each congressional district to get those district-level delegates, and 15% statewide to get statewide. We know with his statewide victory, he's going to get, right now, at least 14 delegates.
And maybe more. So where does this put the overall count, given the fact that now 4 states have voted?
So we still have a long way to go, but yes, take a look. Up there, you see you need 1,991 delegates to secure the Democratic nomination. Look what happened with Joe Biden tonight. He just jumped ahead of Pete Buttigieg, and that's with 14 delegates. We still have 40 to allocate from South Carolina. You've got Bernie Sanders with 45 delegates to date, Joe Biden with 29, Pete Buttigieg in third now with 26, Elizabeth Warren with 8, and Amy Klobuchar with 7. Just before we projected South Carolina, Joe Biden only had 15 delegates. Look, he basically doubled his delegate total already, Wolf. This is really significant. Now, again, these first 4 states are about momentum and proving your worth in this race. When we get to Tuesday, a third of the delegates are at stake. But this is where we are as of right now. Delegates to date, Sanders, Biden, 1 and 2.
Biden.
Yeah, the interesting thing there is that could change as the night folds on. Bernie Sanders maybe get like 2 or 3 more delegates. Biden much more than that. And maybe Biden could take the lead. So here he is. Let's see. Check out his victory speech again there from CNN, which we will be able to get to you in a minute. But, of course, we have to deal with another very fun ad before we get to that. And hopefully we can get some fun guests. We're looking at possibly Kenan Octaves committed to come on, and James Stanley, of course, back with us to talk a little bit more about the primaries. And, I mean, it's good to share around. I mean, I'm definitely not feeling bad because I'm pretty sure Bernie Sanders is about to board a massive FEC total, but
CNN
we'll see what happens
that Joe
Tuesday.
Biden is the winner in South Carolina. This is the former vice president's first primary victory. He was counting on South Carolina to help keep his campaign going. This gives Biden a much-needed boost as he looks to challenge the frontrunner Bernie Sanders on Super Tuesday. That's only 3 days from now. Joe Biden, the winner of the South Carolina Democratic primary. Dana, a major, major win for the former vice president. He desperately needed it. He got it.
You can't understate how important this is.
Yeah, so that's the moment that they called it for him, and it's really kind of disappointing because I want to see him talk about it. Because I know he already did his little victory speech. But yeah, we'll try and get to play that for you. Yeah, so there's no rush to push Amy Klobuchar or Elizabeth Warren out of the race yet, and here's why. Joe Biden's campaign needs them in the race on Super Tuesday. Team Biden believes that having Klobuchar in the race through Super Tuesday is incredibly helpful to them because it blocks Minnesota It blocks Minnesota for Bernie Sanders. If Amy gives out, it gives Minnesota to Bernie, a top Democrat close to the Biden campaign, tells CNN. 4 years ago, Sanders crushed Hillary Clinton in Minnesota, winning 62-38 in the state's caucuses. He's a strong appeal to Minnesota voters. But this year, it's a primary contest which Klobuchar advisors believe she's poised to win or be incredibly competitive with Bernie Sanders. So that's something that's going to be very interesting.